Week 7, almost in the books. One more game tonight on Monday Night Football, the San Francisco 49ers and the Vikings. And we are in the midst of a major shakeup in this year's best ball season. Lots of players on IR, even more injuries stacking up, bye weeks. Everything is changing over the course of this next month. We had some monster performances, the Chiefs, the Chargers. We're going to get into all that, look at some of the leaderboards, answer some of your questions, and see what we think is going to happen the rest of the way. Now, what's going to win? Who are going to be the guys you need in best ball in 2023? Let's get into it now. Hello. Sup, Olaf. Sup, Ken. Happy week 7, week 8, whatever we want to call it here. I can't believe it's week 7. I cannot believe it feels like yesterday we were drafting until our eyes were bleeding to get everything in all these tournaments that we wanted. And now here we are, 7 weeks in to best ball season. And my God, the carnage is through the roof. Excited to dive into where a lot of teams are standing, see what you guys are thinking about the rest of the way through the best ball season. We just, the most recent news is on the top of my brain, but yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about here. Olaf mentions JSN and Jahmyr Gibbs. We just got news just a little bit ago, right before the show, that Dawson Knox is having wrist surgery, and they don't know how long he's going to be out. It's tough to say. JSN had wrist surgery and didn't miss, much camp time or anything. So we'll see what's up with Knox, but certainly is going to miss some time. So Dalton Kincaid season, despite a bad performance, a poor performance for both of these guys. It's apparently rookie tight end season. Michael Mayer taking over more of the tight end role in Vegas. Trey McBride continuing to slowly grow. It wasn't quite what we hoped for this week, but something like 6 PPR points this week against Seattle. The rookies, man, that is definitely one of the big themes that I'm feeling right now. The rookies, right? Obviously, a lot of this, it's easy to look back and say, oh, yeah, the rookies break out over the course of the season. It is a little bit of, the chaos coming into play, but we want to draft the guys that can most benefit from the chaos. And I think that these rookies are really starting to show us, right? When David Montgomery goes down, Jahmyr Gibbs is insanely valuable because we know how talented he is, right? JSN, it was a combination of his emergence over the course of the last couple of weeks, right? In week 6, he played, or the last game for the Seahawks before this week, he played the most snaps that he had played all season. Pete Carroll was hyping him up as, early in the year, he had the wrist thing. And so they were actually, it's kind of funny. I didn't even think about this part of it. I was just buying the dip all of August and September on JSN. But Pete Carroll mentioned, obviously he's mostly a slot receiver. And so that's naturally going to take him off the field on some rundowns as it is, but they didn't feel comfortable with his ability to run block with a recently fractured wrist. And so that was limiting his snaps, limiting him to more like obvious passing situations, which is like, okay, but also does limit your upside, right? If you can't be in on a rundown, there's times where quarterbacks check out of run plays, right? Or you have multiple plays called in the huddle. And so it's a run play. You need to be able to run block, but you get a look from the defense and it turns into a pass play. A lot of things, just so much in the air there. And so JSN was not really ready to take on that with his wrist. And also just being a rookie, he didn't really play much in his final year at Ohio State. And so there was a little bit of getting up to speed time there. And we see that with the tight ends, right? Not everyone is Sam Laporta. Almost no one is Sam Laporta, just being a full-time starting tight end and productive from week 1 as a rookie. It takes a little bit of time. And so we're seeing that's one of the biggest trends. We'll get into some of this other stuff, like certainly this that Jonathan says Taylor Swift boyfriend's pretty good at football. Yes, he is. And I'm leading in with all these rookie tight ends, and none of them, I guess Kincaid was pretty good this week, and Laporta was typical Laporta, like 11 PPR points. We'll get to the elite tight ends. But growth as a rookie is, we always expect it to be like, okay, he played 40% of snaps in week 3. He's going to play 50%, and then he's going to play 60, right? And all this. And what we usually see is like, it's just a switch. And sometimes, like with Gibbs, like with JSN, it's a little bit of the fact that there's an injury around them too. That being said, JSN, Jake Bobo, shout out Jake Bobo. If you watch the Roto Grinders DFS show on Sunday mornings, we had a good chat about Jake Bobo. I got absolutely everything wrong about the week 7 Sunday DFS slate, but we got Jake Bobo right. So we're gonna take that W and take about 15 L's from yesterday. But Jake Bobo kind of stepped into that outside role, JSN still being predominantly a slot receiver, but his role did grow. And we saw the targets, the targets grow. We saw the downfield red zone shot that obviously he converted into a touchdown. And these types of things just happen with these young players, right? It's not always just rookies, but these rookies in particular this year, this is like kind of what happens. Like not everybody is Sam Laporta. Not everybody is Jamar Chase, right? JSN was an amazing prospect. He wasn't quite as good of a prospect as Jamar Chase, but like not everybody just comes into the NFL week 1 and is a star right away. Sometimes they are. And that's why I do like to bet, right? Sometimes you're just Sam Laporta and you're just a top 10 tight end in the NFL week 1 the moment you step on a football field. Sometimes you're Michael Mayer. Sometimes you're Dalton Kincaid. And it takes time to grow into that. And so I just think it's whether you drafted these guys or not, you have some of them, you don't have other ones. We're starting to see the thesis that most of us, if you watch the show, if you're one of the sickos like all of us, you probably draft a lot of these younger guys and maybe some contingent value bets. And that is something that we love to see over the course of the season. It is highly variant in terms of when it's going to happen. We hope it happens sooner rather than later, but we see this, that, like I said, the growth is not linear. It kind of just happens. JSN, week 1, week 2, week 3, like limited role. Kincaid, limited role. Boom, 80% of snaps, right? Last week, 8 targets. Michael Mayer, boom, 80% of snaps 2 weeks ago. Obviously Gibbs, of course, that's with David Montgomery out, where he's not going to project to be that way. But when you step up and perform, when given the greater opportunity, it only leads to better things down the road, right? Like they're not going to turn Gibbs is not going to scale back into a 20% snap. Sorry, my dog is digging. We got a dog bed over in the corner that you can't see over here, and he is just, my God, digging and digging and digging. But anyway, really, really excited. And I think that's one of the big lessons before we get into just the explosions of a couple of these different teams, 2 of them in particular. These young players and some of these bets that we made from a best ball perspective that, we're not so focused on week 1, even week 2, even week 3. We're focused on winning this tournament. Like we're still only in week 7, man. We are halfway through the first stint in this silly game that we play, right? There's 4 parts to this. The regular season, setting aside drafters, which we will touch on drafters, and the BBM regular season. I'm going to check out some of those leaderboards here in a minute. We have the regular season. You got to finish in the top 2 there, right? And so many people focus almost all of their attention on that. And that's just the first part. Right? That's how you get your money back for that team. Right? In BBM, you just get your Best Ball Mania specifically. Some of the other tournaments are different. You're just getting your money back if you advance out of your league. So and even the best advance rate in the world is, a 25-30% advance rate, something like that. So you're losing money. Even if you have the best advance rate in the world, all the money we talk about all summer, all the money comes at the end. So it's just nice to see some of the guys start to stack some wins here. These rookies, these younger players, even everybody hates the Falcons, and we'll talk about Bijan, but everybody hates the Falcons. You're getting fine games out of the Londons and the Pitts and all these young guys, just slowly but surely, a large collection of them getting better and better. And so burying the lead for sure, but that's the big thing that's been sticking out in my mind here this afternoon since we got that Dawson Knox news, because it was just like in one foul swoop, all these guys, all these young guys started to emerge, right? You get the JSN, of course, with no Metcalf. You get Mayer, and you get Gibbs, and you get all these different guys just popping up kind of all in the same week, which is really good for me personally. Also, shout out Jerome Ford. Hopefully he's okay. Got banged up in that game. But then you get boom, Dawson Knox. And it's like all of these guys, all of these bets on upside rookies are getting their shot, right? They're not, JSN did score. Gibbs did kind of luck box a touchdown at the end to get there, but they are getting their opportunity now, and we'll kind of see how this goes the rest of the way. Some shout out Jesse. Happy Monday. And yes, please do drop a like down there on the video. And this is ultimately it, right? As Olaf says, and best ball is so funny because I'm not going to ever sit here and tell you that I think Kyron Williams is the most talented player of all time. And I didn't know how talented, Puka Nacua was or those kinds of things. But ultimately there's such a big, being able to find the guys who could be more talented than maybe the draft market is giving them credit for. That's Puka, right? That's certainly a lot of these rookies. Frankly, Laporta is a very, very good one that is just way more talented than, he got buried because he was the rookie tight end, but we kind of almost knew he was going to be the starter from week 1 for a long time. And it was just the rookie tight end narrative was holding all these guys back. And so if you just say, I don't care about any of that stuff, just give me the possibly super talented young player that is also more likely to be reaching the peak of his value when I need him the most, right? Who is more let's look at Adam Thielen as an example. Stone cold smash. Every take I had about Adam Thielen this summer could not have possibly been more wrong. I've taken a lot of big L's on a lot of individual players so far in these first 7 weeks, but none greater than Adam Thielen. Not even close. Rashad Penny is less of an L to me than the Adam Thielen takes that I had over the summer. And I would still do that again, as crazy as that sounds, because this is him burying me in the least important part of the season. And is it possible he's still doing it in week 17? Sure. Anything is possible. But generally speaking, I prefer to target the archetype of player that is going to continue to rise and rise and rise. And we get to week 15, 16, 17. That's when they are at their peak value. Adam Thielen is at his peak value in the first 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season. He could, like I said, he looks awesome, by the way. I could not have been more wrong about his dustiness. He looks good on the field. Obviously, they have absolutely no one that can earn any targets at all on that offense. It is truly pathetic, the other weapons that they have there. And it's certainly possible that he's just going to do this all season. And I will hold that L as well. But fading players like that and then targeting players like Laporta, JSN, Gibbs, Kincaid, Mayer, whatever, targeting those kinds of guys, Tank Dell, Josh Downs, you can get big hits. And then you also get the potential for the late season, super emergence, right? Josh Downs could just be a star. Tank Dell could just be a star. And I'm getting close enough to Adam Thielen. Not the same. I'm getting close enough to Adam Thielen, but I don't have the risk of that archetype of a player, right? Because for every Adam Thielen, now this can be true for a little bit of the rookies too, but for every Adam Thielen, there is a Juju Smith-Schuster. For every Adam Thielen, there is a name another dusty veteran, right? We do this every year. Brandon Cooks was a 5th round pick last year because for the same reasons that people took Adam Thielen. Now, Adam Thielen was way cheaper, so a very different thing. But that archetype of an older guy, how good is he still? That fall off happens. Like, look at every aging wide receiver of all time. It happens to Odell Beckham, whether it's injuries or age. It happens to Julio Jones. It happens. Juju isn't even that old, and it just poof, gone. Juju can't play anymore. And so those types of players are a really difficult evaluation because there's a chance that the Tank Dells and the Josh Downs because you see Jonathan Mingo, Adam Thielen's teammate, probably just not very good. Maybe he'll get better over the season, but so far he just doesn't look like an NFL player. So you have that risk for the young guys, but you never have the risk of it like, oh man, Adam Thielen hasn't been very good for the last couple of years. He's older. This offense is going to stink. What happens if like he falls off the cliff, right? And so it's a delicate balance. I'm never ever going to say like you have to fade anything, because I think at his cost, I understand why people were into an Adam Thielen. I honestly think it made total sense. It's not for me and not how I like to personally play, but I think the big lesson that we shouldn't be taking too many hard lessons away, certainly not in week 7. We're going to look back in week 17. We'll be doing this exact show and probably laugh at some of the things that I said today or the things that we thought at this point in time were going to be the truth. And so you can't take, like I said, you can't take those massive lessons, but you also want to pick up things just to kind of store right in the back of your brain. And the archetype stuff is always the one that comes to me. And like, we're seeing this rookie emergence type stuff. And then you're seeing the Adam Thielen stone cold smash, but you're also seeing like, is there another old aging wide receiver that people said was going to get all the targets, right? Juju was like the very, very similar bet in probably a better offense than Adam Thielen. And he sucked. And so, it's just, I think that'll continue to be a fun conversation that I want to keep digging into, because naturally I'm more prone to the younger players, and that's how I like to play this game. But also there does become a point at which it can be beneficial to dive into. And I think Thielen is an interesting case study where we like, for whatever reason, the market decided that Juju could still play, and Juju was going to be going, at pick 100 or 110 or something like that. But Thielen did get plummeted way down, right? There wasn't a Carolina Panther wide receiver, and Jonathan Mingo was the first one that went off the board, and then DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. So in this game, there always does become this balancing act of, that's not the kind of player that I think is a great bet in a vacuum. But at a certain cost, the upside that we're seeing from Adam Thielen does outweigh it. But then also, how many chips do you want to put in on one of the worst, archetype bets that you can make? Aging wide receiver, bad offense. You're counting on projectable volume, right? And when you count on projectable volume, especially in bad offenses, from players who may not be very good. Now, Thielen is proving to still be a good football player, but like we didn't know that. It's easy to say now, but the last couple of years, you were like, oh my God, it's over. It's over for Adam Thielen. This dude can't get targets. All the freaking Vikings had was Justin Jefferson for the last couple of years, and he couldn't earn any targets. So what is that? Like, how do we move forward? It's constantly weighing all of these things that I don't think that type of a player is a good bet in a vacuum. But if everybody says, nope, we're burying him, and we did. I did. Me and Corinne did a show this summer. We got some really hateful comments on the video about, you can't, like, you guys are idiots about Adam Thielen, blah, blah, blah. And that guy was right so far, and we were wrong. But it's only week 7, and we'll see how this whole thing plays out. But I just kind of want to keep storing that in the back of my mind. And so that's kind of a natural transition from the young guys into the old guys who were discounted, that are performing really highly so far. Really quickly, Olaf also on 0. Thielen, I did not see his name either. Dad says, a good question. So by this logic, Thielen is a good pick on drafters because week 1 is worth the same as week 17. I will say, generally speaking, yes, that is 100% the case. A big reason why these types of players are less valuable on DraftKings and on Underdog. We'll see what Underdog does with their regular season stuff next year. That can always change if they continue to gravitate more towards the regular season format. But on drafters, I am a little bit more willing to draft some guys that I don't generally draft. Now, that being said, that leads you to more Cam Akers. And guess what? You draft a bad football player because you're expecting early season production. Sometimes you get Cam, sometimes you get Adam Thielen, sometimes you get Cam Akers, sometimes you get Juju, sometimes you get XYZ. And so that's the other thing. It's easy to pick out the kind of outliers. You pick an archetype, right? And every player is a little bit unique, but generally speaking, we can kind of help ourselves make decisions by putting players into archetypes. We say, okay, we pick the one outlier out of this archetype that is generally a terrible bet to make, right? Whereas the young potentially talented or certainly talented in JSN and Gibbs and ETN, another good example of a guy who I wasn't really high on, who was just absolutely smashing, right? But the young talented player is the opposite. It's the archetype that we want to bet. Like they're all how many big hits come out of this every year? It's always the bet on the young talented players. We're not always perfect at identifying that talent, but that archetype is fruitful. So many big hits come from there. Almost no big hits come from the old guy you're counting on volume for and praying he's not stone cold dust at the age of 32 or whatever, right? And I think that's how old Adam Thielen is. He's 31 or 32. He is 33. Jesus Christ. He's even older than that. So betting on a 33-year-old who for the last 3 years has been very bad, but again, exceptions to the rule. Good point by Jonathan. Exceptions to the rule don't make it the rule. 100%. And right. Sometimes you get Robert Woods. Sucks. Can't earn volume because he's not good. He's worse than Nico and Tank Dell. And the Houston offense is actually good. The Carolina whole team stinks. But I just think we've started to reach this point in the season where all this conversation becomes fascinating, because I don't want it to sound like I'm shitting on Adam Thielen, even though I guess I kind of am, but I'm not in terms of people that drafted him or his performance. But I think this whole conversation around these types of players is so important, because outliers win best ball tournaments. But do I want to try to dip into the waters of this archetype that may have the one outlier? Adam Thielen is the one outlier, and he's a big freaking hit. Amazing tournament winning, on drafters at least, tournament winning outlier. Do I want to wade into those waters and try to find the outlier? Or do I want to wade into this archetype where I know that there's going to be a bunch of big hits? There's going to be a bunch of big misses. Sometimes it's Jonathan Mingo and sometimes it's Josh Downs. But I think that conversation is one that is probably going to be a little intolerable next year, because we'll get some dusty old veterans that people will pound the table for, and it is what it is. And people will come back and dunk on those of us that didn't draft Adam Thielen. But I do think if we're taking this serious and not trying to just be trolls, that we reach this point in the season, you can start to see why. This is why you drafted JSN. This is why you drafted Dalton Kincaid. This is why you drafted, XYZ Tank Dell, Josh Downs. Look at Josh Downs, another big game. This is why you drafted those guys. And so it's just a fun kind of, thought experiment that I want to continue to think more deeply on, because I think we should always be trying to find the guys who can really far exceed their draft cost. And certainly Thielen is showing us that he had that in him, but it's always so easy to say in hindsight, right? It's so easy to say, oh yeah, look, Tank Dell, he was a baller in college. He's balling out in the NFL, right? Because he's better than Robert Woods. Easy. But we didn't really know that. Same thing. Adam Thielen. What are you talking about? Adam Thielen's been a Pro Bowler, and he's the best wide receiver on a crappy team with a rookie quarterback. Of course. Why was he going in the 150s or whatever? It's easy to say, but we have to do this thing. We have to draft these teams in May, June, July, August, September. not now. Once we get the results in. Let's see. Yeah, we can answer a couple. Why not answer a season-long question before we talk about Taylor Swift's boyfriend? Only Green says, boys, I need help. Who do I pick? I need 13 points from Osborne or Madison. I'm going KJ Osborne. You can't run on San Francisco. I'm hoping for 13 points from Alexander Madison. I got him on my best drafters team, but it's going to be tough sledding for the Vikings tonight. But if I'm going to try to pick on them somewhere without Justin Jefferson, just pray for KJ Osborne, I think, for me. Let's see here. Why Dad says a good one. So many, you guys are crushing it in the chat tonight. Why Dad says Juju and Thielen comparison reminds me of Sanders and Montgomery. For me, they were basically the same player, and one of them is a smash, and the other is a bust. It really is true, though, right? Like, I think David Montgomery and Miles Sanders are just a smidge different, but I do think Juju and Thielen were like almost the same thing, which is also why the price was important. Juju went, in the early 100s, and Thielen went at like, I don't know, 150 or something. I have a sick brain that I remember a lot of the ADPs of most players, but when you literally never draft a player, it's hard to remember his ADP. But to your point, to the point is that David Montgomery and Miles Sanders both are like, let's call them average NFL running backs. They're not who are we trying to think here? Cam Akers. They're not, some vagabond that doesn't deserve to be on an NFL team. They certainly deserve to be NFL running backs, but like they're not difference making. Right? This is not Bijan Robinson or CMC or Travis Etienne or Breece Hall. I think we could all confidently say that those guys are more talented than Miles Sanders and David Montgomery. And so how do you, like, I took some Montgomery, I took no Miles Sanders. I took some Montgomery solely because of his situation. Is that right? Is that wrong? I'm not trying to proclaim either of them, but I think you could argue that they're the same, in a similar archetype of a player who's incredibly average, can function in an offense that's cooking, right? We saw Miles Sanders last year. We've seen David Montgomery before, and we're seeing David Montgomery this year, frankly. When they're in a competent or very good offense, they're good enough to put up fantasy points. But like, that's a lot of running backs. And so when things go south, like they are in Carolina, Miles Sanders is not good enough to make up for that. Like, look at Breece Hall and Miles Sanders. The Jets offense is horrendous. Really, really bad, right? Awful situation to be in for a running back. But Breece is so good that he's still putting up fantasy points every single week because his talent can make up for the lack of a great situation. And we thought imagine if he had Aaron Rodgers. Jesus, like what Breece would be doing. But nonetheless, Breece is still a really valuable fantasy asset, in my opinion. Also has an awesome stretch of a schedule coming up here. So wheels up for Breece. But Miles Sanders is not good enough to make up for that lack of a good situation. The environment that he's in is terrible. Whereas David Montgomery, was average at best for Chicago. He needed every touch, right, to be fantasy viable. When Khalil Herbert was stealing touches or others were stealing touches, it wasn't going as well for him in Chicago. But when he gets the work in Detroit and they're scoring a bunch of points, he's good enough to do it, right? And so it's just tricky, but I like that kind of a comparison that you put there. Let's see here. Cobra Kai says, I get people missing on Adam Thielen. No one could have seen that coming, but I regret not having more Mostert and having any Devontae Parker. That's interesting. I don't regret. It is funny, though, that I will admit to having some Devontae Parker, a lot more Kendrick Bourne, which is disgusting. But I felt a little more comfortable taking the Patriots guys in the last round, like literally in the last round. I know that the cost on someone like Thielen was very cheap and not prohibitive at all. But there's like, this is going to disgusting, but he went around like I was a very big late round quarterback guy this year, right? And everybody loved the late round tight ends. and there were still good running backs going around in the 150s, 160s, 140s, whatever. And so that 2v2, like I always like, I like Kendrick Bourne as much, if not more, than Adam Thielen. Give me Kendrick Bourne in the last round or Devontae Parker. Give me the two Patriots wide receivers who I actually think can play, not Juju. I think that the other two are possibly decent. I think Kendrick Bourne's a quality NFL football player. Devontae Parker, maybe not so much anymore. But if I'm going to make that bet, let me make it in the last round type of a thing. And so that's where that Thielen one becomes interesting, because he wasn't right. It wasn't Juju. I didn't have to pay a pick 100 price on him. So you can make the same case for him that I'm sitting here making for Bourne and Devontae Parker as average at best NFL talents. Mostert is a little bit of a different one. We'll talk about the Dolphins in just a second. I'll not stand for Cam Akers slander. Cobra Kai says, I have 30% and I'm just waiting for him to take Madison jobs. Good luck. I'm rooting for you. Yeah. And Brees all 5,800 in DFS on Sunday. Lock City. Just lock it in. Johnny says, unfortunately, I'm 1-6 and I can't seem to buy a win. Buddy, I am right there with you in some of my leagues. If it makes you feel any better, this is the glory of best ball. I don't have to overanalyze every single team. I don't have to overanalyze every single team every single week and get pissed about like having the third highest scoring team and having 1 or 2 wins on the season. Every year, I tell myself I'm going to play less of and I am playing less of managed leagues. But every year I get reminded of why I hate it so much. I have 2 dynasty teams that are loaded, like absolutely loaded. And I am 2-4-1 I'm about to go to 2-5 in one of them. I'm about to go to 1-6 in the other one, in the other one. And they're like awesome teams. And I'm not like leading the league in points by any stretch, but I'm in the top half of points. I have good teams. I'm trotting out a good lineup every single week, and I just can't get a win. And so I'm starting a tank. Like not a full tank, but I'm selling off some pieces to try to get some draft picks. And it's like, it reminds me of why I choose best ball, because I get to just root for, a bunch of teams, hundreds or thousands of teams every single year, and celebrate tons of touchdowns, right? Oh, Kyron scored. Yay, got him. Oh, Puka scored. Got him. Oh, Jalen Warren scored. Sweet. JSN scored. Awesome. I get to root for all these different guys instead of that one lineup. Oh, excuse me. And Johnny says, yeah. And I have the second highest scoring team. Here's a fun one. I know this is a best ball show and nobody really gives a shit about everybody else's season-long teams. But I do one auction draft with some buddies. Really fun. Full PPR auction. And I like to do that because if I'm going to do this season long, I like to do something where I can actually draft every player. Like, give me a different format. Like, the snake draft stuff is like, God, I do so many of those every single year. Like, I would like, if I'm going to play a managed league, let's play a different format. So I love the auction format. I will still play some of those. I'm trying to go through all the guys that I drafted. I had, in my opinion, the best team in the league. Probably not. I'm not sure it was close. So I paid for Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, and Mark Andrews were my studs. I naturally, as you know me, went 0 RB. Deontay Johnson hurt in the first game. Obviously, Justin Jefferson hurt. Garrett Wilson loses Aaron Rodgers. But running backs, think about before all these guys got hurt. Kyron, Achane, whatever. Achane, like, just had an absolute all-star squad. Like an absolute all-star squad. Got so decimated by injuries that I went from Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Deontay, Andrews, Kyron, Achane starting in my lineup every single week, to last week I started Justice Hill, Royce Freeman, Curtis Samuel, Zeke. I had to start Zeke. It was fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. And that is, again, why I much prefer best ball. Mostert and Jeff Wilson is another good example. I don't think Mostert is that good. It could have easily been Jeff Wilson smashing if it was Mostert who got hurt. That's an interesting one, because I think, here's what I'll say. Mostert is not a superstar NFL running back. by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think anyone's going to compare Raheem Mostert to CMC or Eckler or Bijan or any one of those guys. He is, however, a great fit in Miami with his speed. He fits that zone system, the Shanny, aka McDaniel system. And then, he got lucky. Jeff Wilson went down, and so it was clearly his job. And then Etienne takes over the secondary job there. But that's how it goes sometimes, and that is the benefit of the good environment. And he clearly was a potential upside type of a player, right? He's a home run hitter in an offense that, assuming health for everybody involved, was at worst going to be an above average offense. We're seeing that it's basically one of the top 3 to 5 offenses in the NFL. So, that's the chaos of the season. It has worked out very well for Raheem Mostert with Wilson being hurt and then Etienne going down. Interested to see what happens with Wilson coming back and Etienne going to be back in a couple of weeks. Really interested to see. My guess is that Wilson is just nothing. I don't mean nothing, but Wilson will require an injury to be in there, and then Etienne will be back right there with Mostert. Yeah, I know Hacker enjoyed the 9 PPR points from Zeke. I did too. I'll take the touchdown. I think I scored like 80 points in full PPR. Really strong week. Shout out Sam Howell for a horrible week. Let's talk about the Chiefs though, because I want to segue that into some leaderboard talks. We're gonna pull up. If you're unfamiliar, speaking of Hacker, in our in the chat, our wizard maestro behind the scenes building all of our Spike Week tools has built out some best ball leaderboards. And let me go to the leaderboards with the premium. Oh, I'm not signed in. We'll just go back to the players. Okay. Zoom in a little. There we go. All right. So this is the Best Ball Mania regular season leaderboard. And yes, who doesn't love a 9-point usable week? I would kill for a 9-point usable week on some of my teams. Rashad Penny, Damian Harris has had one of those, I think. I think 9 was his. He scored 1 touchdown this year. I think he had 9 points in that. He's also on IR. All my highest owned players are on IR, it appears. But I want to look at the Best Ball Mania leaderboard and then also look at the Drafters leaderboard, and we can kind of get a little bit of a sense for where the top teams are at and how much shakeup there's going to be. I think it's pretty crazy to look at that. I believe I'm actually going to start with the second place team. I believe FF Luigi was in first. I think was in first up until this week or maybe last week, but has been near the top or at the top of the Best Ball Mania 4 regular season leaderboard for basically the whole year. And what a fascinating team. The double elite tight end, of which neither of them played in week 1. And he has the most total points, second most now. Unfortunately for him, this is the brutality of this sport, right? Loses Anthony Richardson for the season, had lost Kenny Pickett for a little bit of a stretch there, is currently without David Montgomery, is currently without Achane, and is currently without Kyron Williams. Kyron was placed on IR, so he's out for at least the next 3 weeks. And there was something else I wanted to point out. No, that was it. So he's down to Kenny Pickett and Sam Howell, and running back is a little bit tough. But still, Rashad White, D-Mont will be back, Mostert, and Tajay. He can hang in there. Certainly not dead, but like I said, the brutality of this game with injuries. Found it interesting that Jalen Hurts was actually on 2 of the top 5 more teams than Tua was Jalen Hurts. I found that to be pretty the same amount of teams as Tua. Jalen Hurts, despite being a second-round pick or a 2-3 turn pick. But I think it goes to show that this can show you part of the value of the elite quarterbacks, where when you hit on, and like there have been so many mid to late round just smashes, not like good picks, but like absolutely going nuclear and like doing it constantly. I know Achane's out, right? But Achane, Adam Thielen, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Mostert, I mean, look, you see Curtis Samuel on a bunch of these teams. He isn't going nuclear, but he's getting you double digits every week. I'm trying to think here. Nico Collins, right? Alvin Kamara was affordable. Jerome Ford just had a big game. Like, there's so many of these mid to late round players that have gone nuts. And fortunately for the elite quarterback teams, kind of that 2-3 turn in terms of running backs and wide receivers has not been very good. It hasn't been awful, but it also hasn't been particularly great. And so that's why there's so much nuance to all this, right? But why is a double elite tight end team with Chris Olave, who's been like, okay, right? Both the elite tight ends missed week 1. Chris Olave has been fine. And both the tight ends just absolutely smashed this week. So he used both their scores. But like, crazy that could possibly be one of the highest scoring teams in all of best ball with that kind of layout. But it just goes, like I said, goes when he has Achane, Mostert, Montgomery, Rashad White, Kyron Williams, all on the same team. Incredible. And Attacker points out, you get another one and the 4th place team. Now he has Andrews and Kittle. So no Kelsey, but Andrews and Kittle. Then you have the flip side on these other teams. You have a single elite tight end with Hawkinson here. You have I'm not really going to call Kyle Pitts an elite tight end. I don't want to say that. But then look at this. Look at the 5th place team. 4 tight ends. None of them have done a goddamn thing. Tyler Higbee, Jawan Johnson, Hayden Hurst, and Noah Fant. None of them have done anything. But when you have Travis Etienne, and you have Devin Achane, and you have Raheem Mostert, and you have Tyreek Hill, you have Mike Evans, you have Gabe Davis, and you have Adam Thielen, you're going to score a lot of points. And so far, other than Tyreek at the top, and the Dolphins, right? So, but let's set that aside. Tyreek at the top, and then did you hit on Mostert, Achane? Who else am I missing? Thielen, right? Maybe Nico, right? Maybe Tank or Josh Downs or something. Did you hit on multiple of those guys because there were so many available to you between the 11th round and the last round? There are slam dunk, grand slam, home run, whatever the hell you want to use, picks that are monster scores so far in these formats, the regular season formats, that like, it's not that the first couple of rounds didn't matter, but they like almost didn't matter. You'd prefer to have probably Tyreek in the first round and then probably elite quarterback. Probably, but Tua's obviously been very good. Howell, Ritter. I'm trying to think of the other quarterbacks that have been pretty solid there. But anyway, you get the point, right? Like, this season has not been defined the same way as the last couple of seasons. The last couple of seasons have been defined by a top 6, 7, 8 round player, or multiple actually. So we had the Cooper Kupp breakout when Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods were both going in the 4th round. We had the Mark Andrews breakout that year when he was going in the 5th round. We had the Eagles last year, and to a lesser extent the Dolphins, all elite. We had the Jags last year, who were not so expensive, but still top 10, 11 round picks. But there were not to this extent, right? Last year it was like, did you draft Zay Jones? Like, Zay Jones was great last year, and I think you probably still want him on teams this year once he gets healthy. But like, there was nothing like this. This is crazy. Now, that being said, lots and lots of Achane on these teams, right? And now he'll be back, and most of them, and now like 1st, 2nd, 5th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 5th, right? All the top teams have Devin Achane. So clearly they've been weathering the storm. They just got to make it through a couple more weeks. So I think Achane teams, are certainly fine. If you have Achane teams that are not at the top here, you're hoping to tread water for just a couple more weeks. Like, just get back, buddy. I need him. I know I need him. He's on a couple of pretty good teams on drafters for me. But the HN teams, I think, are mostly doing okay, the ones that are at the top. And he's going to be back at the minimum amount of time. Whereas when I look up Chiron, lots of Chiron teams at the top as well. But you start to stack these, right? Okay, Chiron and HN, right? We mentioned this FF Luigi's team, Chiron and HN, and David Montgomery. And he does have, as a hacker mentioned, he has the soon-to-be Titans. I would, oh baby, if we can get a Titans fire sale and give me Tajay and give us Tajay, whoo baby, whoo, it's getting sweaty. It's making it move over here if we get Tajay. But we are in this really, really like year-changing time with HN out and Chiron out. We just got word apparently that Jerome Ford is going to miss a couple of weeks. Not that he was like a complete and utter slam dunk, but think about where we were sitting just a couple of weeks ago before HN got hurt, before Chiron got hurt, right when Chubb went down. And you're like, oh baby, I got Ford. There were so many of these like league winners or league winning types, and like they're all hurt now. So now you need to backfill those league winners with somebody else that can fill in that production until hopefully they get back. Right? Chiron's going to be out for at least 3 more weeks. HN's going to be out for 2 more weeks, and you got to be able to find a way to hang on, right? Whether you're trying to compete for regular season prizes here or on drafters, or you're trying to just advance out of your group, right? Like, I mean, I know for me personally, especially with all of those injuries, with Chiron out, with the other Bears guys out, shout out Donta Foreman for saving a shitload of teams of mine, but HN out, like I said, Chiron out, who else am I missing? There's the guys, Brees on bye, right? Like all these injuries, Pollard on bye, just Bijan having a headache and not playing, like so many guys missing. My running back scores were putrid, absolutely putrid. That's why Foreman, like, I think Paul said in the Discord today that the performance from Donta Foreman this week probably makes him like a good pick. At least like a net neutral pick, but probably a good pick, particularly given the running back landscape that we had this week. Tons of buys, so many guys injured, and so many impactful players injured, right? That if you had Foreman getting 30-something this week, it was so big for your teams because running backs didn't score very well this week. And it wasn't the running backs that we expected it to be. And it wasn't the running backs that have been smashing all season. So you somehow backfill that with Donta Foreman. He was massive, absolutely massive so far this year. We do need to talk about the Chiefs. I am going to switch over. Let's switch over to drafters real quick, though. All right, best ball championship. Oops, clear that out. All right, we are in the best ball championship, and we see Cutler for life. Shout out Spike Weaker sitting in third. Where's the next best? Z Buckley, another Spike Weaker sitting in 21st. This E Beimfohr guy. Who's that? Sitting in 30th. Our guy Eagles sitting in 32nd. Silvery Lake sitting in 35th. So a bunch of Spike Weakers in striking distance, but a pretty nice lead here for Behave, which I believe we talked about 2 weeks ago when he was winning or near the top of the drafters leaderboard. Pretty nice little lead, up by 34, almost 35 points. Got the big Hurts Goddard game this week. ETN is sneakily one of the guys across like all of the top teams. Not quite as much on drafters, but he was on like all the top teams in BBM on Underdog. Him and Tyreek, HN, Mostert, those guys are all it's very funny that a wide receiver and 2 different running backs from the same team are all littered on there, but such is life. Behave sitting in first place, pretty impressive squad that he has here. And he went Not one, not two, but 3 Dolphins running backs. So that is the handcucking of all handcucking going on there, but paired him with just smashes all around. Josh Kelly even finally having a usable week. I don't know that he did use Josh Kelly's score this week. ETN, yeah, because nothing from Derrick Henry, obviously. HN out. Mostert didn't do anything. Jeff Wilson didn't do anything. So he used Josh Kelly. What a big, huge Josh Kelly touchdown run there for Behave. Obviously gets the big Hurts to Goddard game. Jacoby Myers, I do want to shout him out as another kind of sneakily awesome pick in best ball. Had the one monster game in week 1, I believe that was, but has just put up really, really solid production at the wide receiver position at a little bit of a cheaper spot. We were all really excited for, the Dotson, Bateman, Zay Flowers, Treylon Burks, JSN, that whole tier. And JSN, I know, and Zay. All right. But that whole tier is kind of just a flop. And then you have Jacoby Myers just sitting a couple rounds later, just ho-humming along, usable week, 2 spike weeks and a usable week every single week on a terrible team. But obviously you see another Adam Thielen, but kind of a fascinating team, right? No Puka, no Kyron. But when you get the Dolphins, right, and you get a nice Hurts Goddard stack and Tyreek, obviously, wow. Crazy team and a crazy username and an awesome username. Yeah, let's see. L3G, that's what I'm going to call you, because legalize it. Is that what your username is? That is very confusing with all the numbers. That's a little too much. I see what you're doing, but you're doing too much. Legalize it 420. Says 96th place. Yeah, let's look at 96th place. Let's check the team. Sitting just behind a fellow Spike Weeker. We got that is a tight squeeze here. Soccer Dave, look at this. This is a fun little grouping here. We got our good friend David Kitchen, Soccer Dave, another Spike Weeker, and Legalize It sitting here with Hertz. Lots of Hertz going on around here. Hertz car, CMC. So you're looking for a CMC to get going tonight. Oh man. Shout out to you, and shout out to our boy Evan Hull, RIP, in peace. I don't think he would have mattered too much with the way Zach Moss and JT are playing, but still, it would be nice that if he wasn't out for the season. DK Metcalf, tough week to lose DK Metcalf, especially you had no Nico. Big Puka game for you. But wide receivers are a little thin. But a hell of a start, man. 96th place. Waller popping up, Goddard popping up. So you're good at tight end. Obviously, you have Hurts at quarterback, and your running backs are really good. CMC, Kamara, Mostert, Tank, Kyron, sitting pretty. Hopefully, we can get Metcalf back out there. See what Jordan Addison can do. Nico be out of the bye next week, and obviously got Puka. So you got life no matter what. But fun team. Who'd you stack Derek Carr with? Nobody? Oh, Kamara. That's fun. I like it. The Saints, and don't get me started on the Saints. But yes, as Jonathan said, Kamara looking good as a great pick that I did not take very much. To be totally honest with you, wasn't super excited about him. Got lots of Kendre. He's doing lots of standing and watching of Alvin Kamara catching 1-yard checkdowns, but Kamara looking good. If you got Kamara on your teams, you're definitely feeling good, especially right now with all those running back injuries. My goodness. One and only, that's your only team? You drafted one team and it's in the top 100? Holy cow. Shout to you. Jeez. RIP Quez. It's too bad Julio had to come in and ruin your Quez Watkins, but shout out to you, man. Awesome team. That's impressive. That is very impressive. Hacker says, with all the Hurts teams, if someone lucks into a big week from their QB2 in week 10, it can make a big difference. Excellent. Excellent point. Yeah. Haven't touched a ton on the buys. We touched a lot on the young players versus old players versus, how are the bye weeks going to go with mainly with the running backs and the injuries. And just quickly, like kind of as we start to close, the bye week stuff is like we are nowhere near out of the woods. We just started the bye weeks with all the like there's so many guys out, so many guys on IR, right? Just off the top of my head, especially now. Okay, so we get the Ford news out 1 to 2 weeks. So good for Kareem Hunt, maybe Pierre Strong. Those two will share the backfield without Jerome Ford. But Jerome Ford was a great pick that's been helping people. Not to the level of Achane and Kyron and stuff, but certainly helping people, especially this past week. He's out. Looks like Roshan should be back, but Khalil Herbert is on IR, so we'll see what they do with Roshan and Foreman and Darrington Evans. We'll see what they do there. Obviously, Kyron is out for a month, and so nobody has Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman. We don't have to worry about that, but that's huge for the best ball landscape. Kyron was, one of the best picks, if maybe the best pick in all of it. Achane, Achane, Mostert, Puka, Thielen, right? In terms of like production per draft capital. And then I think Kyron and Puka, when you factor in ownership, that they're not 100% owned on these sites, maybe puts them over. But no, now he's out. We'll see. Hopefully he can only be out for those 4 weeks. I was a little shocked that he went on IR, but Kyron out, Achane still out. Who the heck am I missing? Obviously we lose Dawson Knox, which is not impactful, but is going to help out Kincaid teams. Deebo Samuel tonight with the 49ers. Bet the Brandon Ayuk over on receiving yards. Just take that, fund your best ball losses. Not financial advice, but I'm betting it. Deebo out. CMC going to play tonight, but is he fully healthy? Do they need to give him all the work? Is it going to be Jordan Mason or Eli Mitchell behind him? Let me think about this. Let's go to who else is all hurt? So J.K. Dobbins out, which gives Gus, and mostly Gus, but Justice a little bit of life. Who else is all out so far? Aaron Rodgers, obviously, still out. Damian Harris goes out, which seemed to really help. I know it shouldn't seem like it mattered at all because Damian Harris was barely playing, but I think last week the loss of Damian Harris and the continued ineptitude of Latavius Murray looked like it boosted James Cook a little bit. So you got James Cook on teams. I think that feels good. Zay Jones has been out. Hopefully he'll get back this week, but he's been out for, an extended stretch. DK Metcalf misses a game. I assume he'll be fine because he was a game time decision this week, but you never really know exactly what's going on with those injuries. Sometimes it doesn't seem like a big deal. Like the Kyron one was just an ankle sprain, and we were like, okay, maybe he'll miss a week, and then poof, IR. That stuff changes, quick, fast, and in a hurry. So Bijan basically misses this week. It seems like a non-issue, but guy getting a really bad headache and it on a Saturday night, it lasting all the way through into Sunday, it's like at least a little cause for concern. I assume that Miles Sanders will be back this week, but he has obviously already missed a game. Jalen Waddle has apparently just gets hurt every single week. The kid is made of glass. I mean, shout out to him. He's a really fun player, and I have him on a lot of teams, so I hope he's okay. Mike Williams is out for the season, right? There's just it's devastation. And so if you just have teams that can freaking hang on, man, and find a couple of difference makers, find that Donta Foreman, hopefully, selfishly, Breece Hall coming back, all that kind of stuff. And then, as like Hacker said, he was specifically talking about the Hurts team, but navigate these buys somehow, right? Because you're going to have every team basically every team. If you have a team with 18 fully healthy guys, like you're either completely smashing and you're at the top of one of these. Actually, you're probably not, because you probably don't have Achan or Kyron or some of the healthy guys, or some of the not healthy guys who have crushed. But it's just, we're in this crazy part where these, as we talked about at the top, these rookies and these young players are starting to ascend. We're getting injuries all over the place. Our lineups, our teams are just ravaged by injuries, and we're also still trying to navigate the bye weeks. This is when everything shakes up, but this is also when even when you didn't have, and so I'll speak, this is me personally speaking from experience, even when you didn't have the best player takes, like mine are horrible. You want bad player takes? I got them. Every single one of my highest owned players sucks. I don't want to go that far. Lamar and Mark Andrews are fine. Lamar and Mark Andrews are fine. Sam Howell is fine. I'm trying to think of even like who some of my other highest owned players, right? I got a lot of Dolphins, whatever. Some of these guys are okay. JSN. I need it, Al. JSN season is coming to save us all, says Al. I need it because he's one of my highest owned players. And Kyron, right? Kyron, one of my highest owned players. Tutu and Puka, two of my highest owned players. Puka still good, but Tutu kind of fading away. And it's just not going well for me in like basically all of my biggest player takes and biggest player stands. A couple of good things here and there, but generally speaking, really bad. But with that being said, I'm still in a pretty good spot, and I feel good moving forward the rest of the year, because I believe that this community here, these group of best ball sickos who take this really seriously, really focus hard on roster construction and building teams that get better during these times, teams that can weather the buys, teams that can weather injuries, teams that if they happen to avoid too many injuries can really accelerate and step on the gas during these weeks and make up ground. Like I gained several different advancing teams across DraftKings and Underdog last week, even though my highest owned players didn't even play. Damian Harris, Rashad Penny, right? Sam Howell didn't do anything, but I gained a bunch of advancing teams because we as a collective community are able to put together teams that can accelerate during this time of the year when other teams are decelerating. Other teams got off the hot starts, but they got 3 quarterbacks and 4 tight ends, and they had Achan and they had Kyron and they had, Mike Williams, and like, poof, you're done, because you don't have enough juice to weather these. You're constantly not even having 2 running backs score. You're constantly needing big games every single week from whatever, Jacoby Myers. You're constantly needing big games because they didn't build their teams to, like I said, accelerate during this time. And that's what we did. And so I feel excited. I also feel a shameless plug. I'm sitting in first in the high roller on on drafters with my own version of the double elite tight end. I got Lamar to Andrews and Purdy to Kittle with Brandon Ayuk as well in that stack, and just really, really hit, other than Thielen, really hit strongly on wide receivers. Have Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, Gabe Davis, Zay Jones, Curtis Samuel, the aforementioned Devontae Parker, also the aforementioned Kendrick Bourne. So we went with a little double Patriots late, Puka and Josh Downs. So you got real lucky in this high roller with my wide receivers. And then of course, Lamar and Purdy have been good. Andrews and Kittle have been good. Running backs, bad. So you talk about but building the team to be able to weather some of the storm, right? Lost Achan, Penny is useless, and lost somebody else, Khalil Herbert. So I lost my most impactful guys, but I do have just enough quantity, right? I have Brian Robinson and Alexander Madison carrying me right now until Achan gets back and until Herbert gets back, unless I could somehow get something from Rico Dowdle or Travion Williams, which is pretty darn unlikely. Obviously, Penny is a 0, but I just wanted to pull up the team because I think it's an example of even when even when, like me, failed miserably on Penny and Damian Harris and Dotson and Bateman and so many of these super high owned guys for me. But when you draft in volume and you just continue to churn out teams, like you can get a little bit lucky sometimes, and you draft the right types of players, right? We talked about Puka, Josh Downs. What was I? Oh, the volume of running backs on a team. This is a 0 running back team with Alexander Mattison. But I forget who it was. I apologize. I asked the question earlier about Thielen is Thielen better on drafters? I mentioned that I have some Cam Akers, and that's the horror story of that kind of a thing. But you see Alexander Mattison on this team, right? Well, Alexander Mattison is specifically on this team because it's on drafters. I don't really have a ton of Madison on DraftKings and Underdog because I don't really love his ability to be accelerating in the playoffs for this Vikings team with his sort of lack of talent. But on here, like, I needed that guy. Like, I would be really struggling without Alexander Mattison on this team, despite the fact that it has HEM, B-Rob, whatever, because I didn't get Kyron on this team. I didn't get a couple of these other hits. Mostert is not on here. And so I needed Alexander Mattison. And so I specifically targeted him because I'm like, oh boy, he's my RB1. I need somebody that's going to be scoring out of the gate. It's not that I don't care about weeks 14, 15, 16. Of course I do, but I need those points. Like, I needed his points early in the season on this particular build. And so sometimes you get a little lucky with how you put it together. It's funny you say that Alexander Madison's not doing anything for you other than trolling, but I've been using his score like every single week. So he's really valuable. I'm going to be using his score tonight. Whatever he does, however many points he puts up, him and B-Rob are in the lineup. B-Rob's 9 points is in one running back spot, and whatever Madison does tonight will be in the other running back spot. Yeah. Travion. Also, I believe Hacker told me that I'm the only person with the Travion in the high roller. So if we could ever get Travion season, that would be sweet. But I've bored you guys long enough. Be back tomorrow night. I believe Rob will be back with me tomorrow night. Spike Week Sicko Show. We'll start to look ahead to week 8. We'll start to talk through some more of the stuff we talked about here tonight. Maybe dive into some more teams. Talk about this Monday Night Football game. Maybe even start to think a little bit about, we got playoff best ball drafts coming in not too long, but we'll start to get all that stuff going. Thanks you guys for joining us and joining me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there, you can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.